Racing Hyrox Doubles and Hyrox Singles varies considerably. In this video we're going to explore considerations you should be taking in your training to respect the differences in each of these. We can think of the individual Hyrox race as one sustained continuous time trial of 60 minutes to 2 hours or however long it takes you to complete it. The doubles race, on the other hand, even though you are moving for most of the time, there are some breaks at the stations which makes it more of an interval style effort. And this not only changes how you do the race, but it also changes how you should be training for it. Let's explore these differences in a bit more detail. With the individual race, we have this long time trial without any prolonged breaks. And even though the running is more important here, the stations are also incredibly important because you need to move efficiently in the stations to be able to sustain the effort and not blow up, but you also need to be able to be good enough on the runs to recover for the next station. For the doubles race, the stations don't matter as much as you will have a built-in break. That means while your partner is working, you will be resting. And this can be influenced by strategy, obviously. But then on the other hand, for the running, you need to be on top of your running game because the paces you need to sustain are much higher than during the individual race. If we think about these differences in terms of energy systems, the individual race is a lot more aerobic and we get penalized quite a lot by having prolonged anaerobic efforts, whereas during the doubles race we would get away with short bursts of anaerobic power outputs because we can recover from them much better while our partners are working. But we still need to be careful and not overdo it. Now, how should these differences be reflected in our training? When training for the individual race, we would recommend you to do longer, sustained, continuous efforts or intervals that are also on the longer side. This will help you to develop the physiology needed to do well in the individual racing. You should also be training much more volume of each individual station to make sure you are as efficient as possible during these stations. It's not enough to be an incredible runner if you blow up in the stations and your paces on the run suffer so much because you take so much damage there. When building our running for the individual race, we really want to work on the 60 to 90 minutes sustained running range, as this is usually a good predictor of the pace that we will be able to hold during the race. Now let's move to the doubles. As we said already, you don't need as much volume of the stations. You still want to be able to do the movements well and efficient, but here more with a focus on speed, because you will be able to have a short break before doing your wall balls, your lunges or your burpees. That means you might change the style of movement. We have tutorials on all of these movements that you will find up here, and we will also go over how to do them as quickly as possible. Let's take the burpee broad jump as an example. When we do the individual race, we want to keep our heart rate down and make the movement as efficient as possible to don't take too much damage for the next run. That means for the individual racing, we might want to use the jump down, step up technique to keep our heart rate down on the burpee. Whereas when we train for the doubles race, we might want to train the jump down, jump up technique as it's a lot more quicker, but it gets us into the anaerobic zone much faster as well. But this should be reflected in our training, that we rather train in short bursts and shorter intervals compared to the longer intervals we would do for the individual racing. Then as you do your actual running for the doubles training, you want to focus on shorter efforts that are run at a faster pace. That means you want to be at or above your threshold pace for longer and really build this 30 to 60 minutes sustained running pace. Then the final aspect that is crucial to consider for doubles training is train as much with your partner as possible. The most obvious thing here is to do the Hyrox specific workouts together. A good thing to do is simulating certain parts and aspects of the race. That means when you do the burpee broad jumps, practice them over the distance of the actual race so you can practice how and when to switch and how many reps each team partner should be taking. The same goes obviously for all of the other movements as well. But not only this, we would also recommend you to do your running intervals or your compromise running together with your partner to get a feel who might be the better runner and who might take more damage from a certain station. That way you can use this information to build the perfect race plan for your next doubles race. Once you have your strategy all figured out, you also want to practice the smaller nuances of changing in the doubles race with the transitions. Let's say, how do you give your partner the sandbag? Or how do you pass over the kettlebells? Or which is the rotational style you would use on the sled pull or the sled push? Now, if you take these things into consideration throughout your next training block, you will be ready to go for your next race. To sum up what we just said, for the singles, you want to aim for a smooth and sustainable power output, whereas for the doubles, you will get away with racing a bit more aggressively, relying on your partner when needed, or having your partner rely on you for the stuff you are great at. Another thing you have to consider for the doubles racing is which type of doubles race you're actually doing. Is it a mixed race or a same-sex race? For the mixed race, a different strategy might apply, as it might be beneficial that the male part takes a bit more on the row and the ski, as men are usually taller, heavier and have more muscle mass, which makes it easier to hold higher paces at a lower effort. Now that was everything for today's video. Good luck with your next race and see you in the next one.